What's up, guys? It's me, Caleb, and I'm really tired. I had a long day of classes and stuff like that. So, with that being said, everything good that you hear from me comes from God, and everything bad that you hear from me comes from me. So, as I always say, listen to what God says, not what I say. Just because I'm rambling and rattling my gums doesn't mean what I say is necessarily right. But I like to provoke you guys to think about things. So, as I'm very tired, I feel called to make a video right now of all times about one of the most complicated issues that I have struggled with in my life. And a few years back, I believe God showed me something really important. So I think a lot of you guys are asking the same question. And so I wanted to make a video on it. What rules in the Bible do I need to follow? We aren't going to go into all these specific things. Instead of that, I think much more helpful to you guys, because you guys could ask these little tiny questions all day long, and I get all sorts of questions, and I want to just clear clear up something broad here, because I think that it will help you guys. Because if I answer one little question with my opinion, another question is going to spring up, and I'm not doing you much good by doing that. Instead, I want to share with you a big, important truth in the Bible. So, as a lot of you guys know, I work with and during one of the lessons, we had just finished a series on the 10 Commandments, and to end that series, I wanted to do sort of a finale lesson. So during that lesson, they actually drew up a map to answer this question about which rules to follow. So I'll go ahead and show that to you. So is it all clear now? All right, kids. You guys nailed it. So, that picture didn't make any sense, and that comes into play in a little bit. So, we went through all the different 10 Commandments. Every week, I tried to ask them, as we compiled more and more, how many of you guys can remember these? How many of you guys can remember all of them? And yes, it is very possible to memorize them all, but obviously they had some trouble. They did pretty good, but they had trouble with this. So I asked them, which commandment do you think is most important? Which rule do you think is most important to follow? I was really proud because a lot of them picked have no other God but God. And I personally think that's a very smart answer, coming from, a little kid. But anyways, I said to answer this question, we are going to divide up into two groups, two different teams, and both teams had the same objective, which was they needed to draw me a picture that looked like something that I already had in my head, okay? So this wasn't a contest of artistic ability. I made that clear. It's not which picture I like better. It's about which one of you gives me what I'm looking for, gives me what I want. And I had a certain thing in mind. So there were two sets of directions in two teams. The first team had 10 meticulous directions. Go to this table, put the paper this way, draw this line parallel to this line in this shade. From there, do this and this. And it went on and on and on. And so, yeah, there was 10 instructions on there that were very specific in what you needed to do to get the picture that I was specifically looking for. The second team, I gave them just 2 pieces of instructions, but they were much more broad and to the point. They really cut to the issue instead of meticulously laying it out. So I called the groups back, and some kids came in late, so they were able to be the judge and decide which one looked more like what I was looking for. And the teams didn't know what I was looking for off the bat. So this isn't a perfect comparison, but there's just some parallels here. But let me show you the pictures. So I said to them, what I was looking for was a picture of a tree. So here, and then I had them guess, who do you think did the picture better? 10 instructions, 10 rules, or 2 rules? They had their guesses. So this is 10 rules. This is the one I showed you before. So as you can see here, this little section, like here, I think that's about the only part that sort of resembles a tree, but they didn't interpret it correctly, and this certainly obviously doesn't look anything like a tree. And if you're wondering, like, how in the world could you have given them directions and get some of this stuff around here, the last instruction on there was to color it in, so they took that kind of broadly and colored it in how they thought to color it in. So that's why that's there. But I promise you, the directions were clearly how to make a tree, but they didn't interpret the directions that way. They were more focused on following the rules, and in fact, they were so focused on following the rules that this ended up looking not at all like what I wanted or what the objective was. The second group had much more narrow. They had less rules, and let's see what they came up with. So this is very obviously a tree, and it's completely adorable that there are little apples in there. And I don't know what this is. Is this like the smoke monster from Lost, but made of rainbows or something? I don't know. And this little critter here is cute too. Anyways, it looks like a tree. That's the point. So, what is the point of me showing you these pictures, and why don't I cut to the chase? What I was getting at in this lesson was that in Jesus' time, a lot of people, a lot of religious figures even, thought that the Bible was all about following rules. But Jesus taught that it's about love. It's not just about following rules, it's about love. Now, there's an important distinction to be made here, because Jesus didn't, he wasn't anti-rules, he wasn't against the rules, but the point of the rules was to get to love. That's how I interpret it, at least. And without love, what did the rules really accomplish? So, just like these kids were following a set of rules, and I wanted a tree, but they didn't achieve it, you can follow a set of rules and not have love, and have you achieved what God is looking for? I would say there's plenty of places in the New Testament that indicate that no, it's kind of pointless. Obviously, God can use it for good, but if you're not achieving love, then, and you're just trying to be righteous by all these rules, that's a big problem. That might even, be a bigger problem than not following some of these rules. If you're just doing it for the sake of being religious and feeling better and more good about yourself and feeling like you made yourself good, that's a horrible place to be. So when Jesus is asked, in the Bible about the most important rule, as you probably noticed when the credit lines rolled in for this video, you could have stopped right there. Love God with all you have and love others. Those are the 2 rules that super simplify things for me. Now, I'm not just saying go around and be like tra-la-la-la-la and you don't need to think about anything because it's like, oh, but I'm loving. Loving is actually extremely hard to do, and loving to the degree that we should be loving, you will find on your own, is impossible. That's another part of rules that's so awesome, is that they completely humble us, because you cannot do it. You can't follow all the rules and make yourself good. It's impossible with man, but all things are possible with God. So God supplies the path of righteousness. Jesus provided a way for us to have that righteousness and have a direct relationship with God and to cleanse us. And we can't do it on our own with rules. So once again, I'm not saying go break all the rules. It's a free-for-all, just love, because you'll find that if you're really loving, and if you're really showing God, love and respect and working towards loving him more and loving others more, you'll find that you will be going beyond the 10 commandments. You'll be going beyond those rules, and that's what it's really about, guys. Seek first the kingdom, and everything you do it for the glory of God. That's what we got to keep in mind. So what is your focus on? And really keep your focus pinpointed on that. And then when all these little things pop up and you pray about them, you can really let it kind of sink in and ask yourself, am I loving God? Am I loving others? And so many of those questions and complications get cleared up, because God isn't just looking for somebody who can do a checklist and make themselves clean. He wants us to be humble, and he wants us to be loving. And the best way to do that, and the only way to do that, is through him. So it's an interesting dynamic and an interesting relationship where we have to be humble enough to realize that he provides us everything we need, and without him, what can we possibly do? So this leaves a lot of important things out, obviously, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys that little thing, because I can throw it in the little tagline and in the intro, love God, love others, but if I never talk about my feelings, my strong feelings about what that means, then I'm kind of not being fair. I'm not giving you all the information, because really that's the question I ask myself every single day, is, am I loving God? Am I loving others? How can I love God more? How can I love others more? When actions are confusing, I ask that question, and a lot of times that makes it so much easier. If it's still complicated, pray about it. And by all means, you can ask questions in the comments. You can seek other people, but God has the answers. And, if you look at what the Bible says, you can filter a lot of that out on your own, and it doesn't have to be complicated. But I love you guys. I hope this helps at least a little bit and alleviates some stress for you. I hope that you guys have a great night, and hopefully I'll see you guys around here next time. We went through all the different 10 commandments and, have no other gods but God, thou shalt not murder. Speaking of which, when we did that lesson, I asked them, how many of you guys have murdered somebody this week? I was really proud of them, because none of them had. So I got to go home early. No, I didn't, and I shouldn't lie about that, because that's another one of the commandments. Actually, I used it as an opportunity to talk to them about what Jesus said about not being angry at your brother, and etc. That whole lesson. It worked out well.